I just want everyone to understand that the number is going to have to be the number, because the town only has so much money, and how they have a lot of other departments that they have to fund.
Right.
So, if it's level, it's level. That's what we have to, we have to live with what they can give us, but then we have to move forward as a town to know what we need to do to improve everything and to make it acceptable, because this isn't acceptable.
Right. And so we want to understand, and again, we're getting into this and trying to understand the process, but in terms of, so you go to them with whatever number is decided upon based on our feedback, and they come back and say no. So from there,
Maybe.
which is probably going to be the case, what happens?
Well, we will have language on Monday for a placeholder for the warrant article for an override for Springtown meeting.
Okay.
That will then have to pass Springtown meeting, and we'll have to pass at the polls. We haven't come up with that number yet. We haven't even begun to talk about that number yet.
So when would that happen if that were to happen?
The FinCom conversation will be next Wednesday.
And then
And
I think they were going to have a meeting on the 23rd, but that meeting, I think, has been
It's
canceled
moved.
or moved.
Right.
So I believe they're going to meet on the 30th. And at that point, they're going to look at all the different departments, and they're going to try to weigh it all and determine what their balanced budget is that they're going to recommend.
Because their job is to balance the
They
town
have-
budget.
yeah.
It has to be by law a balanced budget.
Right.
And all the FinCom meetings are public. All the Board of Selectmen meetings are public too. So, if people want to go and show
Yep.
support for
Good point.
a specific department, then, they should do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But we won't know the number. We sort of feel like we know the number now,
Mhm.
but officially we can't say what the number is going to be because we haven't presented and they haven't discussed. So,
Right. So they meet on the 30th, and they decide, we can't live with what you've given me, so we need to go to the town. When does that take place? In April, some point?
Well, what they're going to do is they close the warrant, and they put all the warrant articles, they create a book, right? So they're publishing the book. Town meeting is May 2nd.
the first, yeah.
May
Right?
2nd.
So
Okay.
you'll come to town meeting, you'll get the book ahead of time, you come to town meeting, all the little warrants will be in there, and you'll have a chance to vote on all of them. My understanding of the way, like an override would work, is the town votes to allow an override vote.
On the ballot.
Right.
You don't, so if, let's say everybody
Yes,
says, yes, we agree with that. Doesn't mean that the override passes, it means they're
goes on the ballot.
allowing a ballot to be brought forward. And that would happen sometime, I'm thinking.
That's the
in
week after.
The
The
week
election's
after.
the week
election,
after.
the week
The
after.
election is the week after the town
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
And then, obviously, we all know what happens at that point.
Right. So these potential budget cuts that you're discussing don't actually take place until the decision to have or not have that override, correct?
They go into effect July 1st.
July
New
1st.
Year.
So there is
FY12
enough time if
starts
the
July
override
1st.
happens for them not to happen.
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
That's
Because
right.
people are under the assumption right now,
Mhm.
based on its potential,
Yeah.
that these are happening, whether the override happens or not.
No, the override would
Okay.
mitigate the cuts.
Would mitigate the cuts.
I think the
Okay.
issue might be because we haven't formally said there is going to be an override of X. It has
No, we
nothing.
can't.
We haven't
Yeah,
decided.
we
say
can't.
that yet.
No,
We
Correct.
can't say that yet. So
Correct.
that's why we haven't.
Yeah, so
And the,
it's
and
Okay.
the override language would be very clear from the committee. These are the things that the override would be for.
Would be
So
for.
if the override passes, these are the things that, come back into the budget. Because
Right.
that's
And it'll
always,
be broken out almost, it will be line by
Line by
line,
line.
down to,
Right.
as close to the penny as we can make it.
because that's where
Right.
people get a little nervous sometimes. It's like, well, what am I actually voting for?
Right.
It doesn't just go into the sort of a black hole in the budget. It is very specifically stated. These are the things that are, sort of at stake.
Okay. And has anybody done the math in terms of the override, I believe, is an increase in your taxes by 3%. Is that correct?
It depends on the number.
Oh, it depends on the
It
number.
just depends on the number.
Okay.
I think,
There's a lot of numbers that are flying around out there, and
Yeah.
I don't know where they come from
Yeah.
or who starts these rumors, but because no one's put forth an override number yet, no one has any idea what a potential increase will
Okay.
be.
right, you
Okay.
shouldn't listen to any numbers unless you get
Okay.
it from us.
Unless
That's
you
why I'm
listen to us.
asking. I'm sitting here asking.
Because I think it's all done in a helpful way, but it confuses people, right?
Right.
And people start getting nervous. One of the things I know Selectman Fowler asked at one of the recent Selectman meetings was to get some information that the public could have regarding actually what is an override, what does it mean, what, how does it work, and I know that Mike Farrell, the town administrator, has been working on pulling that together. But that again is one of those things would be great to have it very clearly stated in writing and really clearly publicize a meeting where it's going to be discussed, because I think it's a huge concern and worry. Nobody really knows what it looks like. Steve?
I think we're going to try and include that in the state of the town.
Oh, okay.
March 28th is one of the modules where we explain what Proposition 2.5 means, what the limitations are, what the potentially automatic increases are, and all that side of it. So I think if it all comes together, that's the plan.
Great. And that's televised, right, Steve?
Yes, it'll be in this room. You can be here live, and it'll also be televised. 6:30 to 9 p.m.
Excellent.
So I think lastly is just feedback in terms of the cuts, which is what you guys are looking to do, a workshop. And, we sat through last week, line by line, what you guys were potentially, and, just doing very simple math. If you were to add up what potentially could happen in terms of a athletic fee, a bus fee, and what we're going to be losing is going to be less, for me personally, than a 5% increase in my taxes.
That's right.
Well, it depends.
For me personally, based on what I pay
Right.
today, it would be 5%.
It,
And I'm just saying, if you just do the math, to
it
me,
depends on how many kids you have playing the sports. It depends
Right.
on how many kids you have riding a bus.
well, I'm talking about one. So, with that, I'm not okay with any of the ones that you took out last week, quite honestly. I don't think that it will benefit our children, and I don't think it'll benefit the community in the long run. So,
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you very
really
much.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else?
There has to be more people.
I have three more questions.
You have to have more questions.
Even if it's not a question, if it's just a comment.
I have a
Good, come on
Sure,
up.
come on.
Yeah, you don't want to go home and say, I wish I said that.
It's Kathy Willett, 8 Hawkway. Ditto what they said. My question is more, I don't understand how this process works. I've
Okay.
never been involved in this. Now I have a child in the system. I've been here since '98, and I was here for the last override that lost by what, 4 votes?
17.
17 votes. What can we do as a community to get people to get out and vote? And to understand where this community is, because it's not a good place. And I think people are walking around with their head in the clouds. Honestly.
You're not off base. You really aren't.
So how do we,
I think at this
shorten that
point,
gap?
it's grassroots. I think we are a lot more, we have the ability with social media at this point, Facebook and other ways, to get the word out to a lot more people, a lot easier than going door to door and tying things on mailboxes, which we've done in the past, every single mailbox in town. I mean, it's discussion. It's discussion at the bus stop. It's talking to your neighbors who may or may not have kids.
well, I can tell you that, we're from the preschool, but I can tell you that we're a pretty close, tight group of families. I sent an email about this meeting based on what was on the town hall website, 7 o'clock. I found out at 6:10 that no, it's 6:30.
Right.
So we would have had, 40 parents here
Right.
for 6:30 had that been
Yeah.
spoken.
Our meetings are all posted downstairs.
Right.
I don't come to the
I know
town
people
hall.
don't come to the town hall,
So
so
do you
it's
think there'll be people
important.
coming at 7?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe.
Although I did send an email
Well-
out to say, joke's on us because it started at 6:30. If you can be there, great.
Right.
If you can't, I don't know what happens. I don't know what goes on
I
after
expected it was posted
that.
on the school website. And I know it was posted via Facebook. What?
It says 7 o'clock too,
For the public hearing? Or
Yeah.
just for the school committee
for
meeting?
the school committee meeting.
It didn't even,
Doesn't
yeah,
mention
even in the
public
paper
hearing.
last week, it didn't specify public hearing versus and then followed by. On
Okay.
the Georgetown record on Facebook, it said public hearing at 6:30.
Right.
and followed by.
Okay, that's
So
good to
it
know.
was it was
That's good to know, because
definitely-
once we post the meeting, we kind of expect it to be newspaper to pick it up, because I know they're in here all the time picking those things up, so we
Yeah.
can, we
I
can
mean, we
definitely do a
wouldn't
better
have
job of
caught
making
it
sure that those are posted.
if someone else didn't speak on a Facebook
Okay.
commentation and one of our families said, no, it's at 7. They said, no, it starts at 6:30.
Okay.
So I think
More people might come.
they might. I don't know if it's gonna do us any good, because nobody's happy with the cuts,
Well,
but
no, we're not-
nobody
we're
really has
certainly
a
not
good
happy.
resolution.
Right. No one's happy with the cuts.
Right.
I mean, we have kids in Pembroke and the middle school and the high school too. You know,
Right.
we all have kids in the
Oh,
system
I-
who are impacted by these cuts.
I'm not questioning that
And,
at all. I just
it's-
don't know where we can go from there. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Oh, absolutely. Dave?
I just want to tag on to what Ann was saying. It's good comments. I think with the social media now, it's probably a lot different even from
It is much
a
different.
few years ago when we went through the effort for an override. But I think from my perspective, having my kids in the high school, and having been through, I was very active with the last override effort, and I think a really important thing is, like, I don't know a lot of the Pearly parents, and a lot of the Pearly parents probably don't know a lot of the high school parents.
Right.
And some of the Pembroke is sort of in between. So I really think it takes a lot of organization at each of the schools, because we have 540 kids at Pembroke, we have 300 and some at Pearly,
Yeah.
right? And we have, and we have at the middle high school, we have 700, 800.
124 or something.
It's a lot of people. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a lot, but each school has their own
Right.
networks, if you will.
Right.
So that would what I would hope for. So we get, if people are active and really believe that we need it, that
Absolutely.
each
And
of
it's
the
people
schools
getting
then
involved.
the people can go to town meeting but they have to come out on election day. That's really the key, because I think for that last one to lose by 17 votes, I'm
It's
sure
a
there
lot
were
of work to
hundreds
lose
of people that have kids,
Right.
and I'll bet you there were hundreds of kids in the schools that didn't vote.
And you know,
Yeah.
it's important that, you know, it's not just
And it's not just-
voting.
it's not just the
It's people
parents.
getting involved from the beginning. You know, it really is, you know, people understanding that this is a constant process. We start the budget process in September for the following year that starts July 1st. You know, we start looking at trends, we start looking at grants, we start looking at, you know, potential
And I can tell you, I
cuts.
didn't know that.
Right.
I mean, it's just not something that you know.
No, it's not until
know?
until you come to school committee meetings.
Right.
You know, when you come to our meetings and you listen to you know, or watch them on TV, you know, 'cause believe me, I have little kids. I know how hard it is to get out of the house. You know, you start to see what we're talking about. We end up, you hear the same kinds of things over and over, and you know, so the more people that we can get involved and understand the process,
There just
the better
needs to
off
be a
it
better
is.
communication. I think
Right.
a better communication to get people involved, I guess. You know, we can sit here and say everybody needs to get involved, it's, you know, important, but there's gotta be something that pulls people in. And I don't know what that something is.
Well, it's cuts.
but-
It's cuts. It's cuts and it's fees, to be honest with you.
It's
the
cuts and
only
it's
time we
fees.
have people come to our meetings, to be honest with you, is when we're raising fees or when we have major cuts like this. And this is the first time we've ever had cuts like this. We've had cuts. We've been
Right.
cutting since 2002.
So, let me ask you this, and do you know, I don't know. Someone had said to me that the percentage of families with children in the school system in Georgetown is 23%.
That's accurate.
Seems about right.
So we're constantly gonna be fighting that uphill battle.
Well, what the comment I would make about that, and I wanted to add, is I would really hope to see that it's not an us against them,
Right.
like it kind of was last time. It
Yeah.
really kind of became contentious because it was, oh, those school people, they're trying to railroad the people on fixed income and that kind of thing. So I think it's all part of that process of dialogue, of getting people to understand, because I've heard a lot of people say, well, if the schools lose their accreditation, or if the schools are looked upon in Boston Magazine and around the state, and people are looking to move into Georgetown, you know, maybe they don't move to Georgetown if it has a bad reputation.
Right.
So, and that affects all of us as residents. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, and I feel like we honestly need, and we've talked about this with the selectmen and other people, we need to see that the town needs to know what it wants to be. And it's not us as a school committee to decide what the town wants to be. It's the you know, the Board of Selectmen and other groups in town need to come together and work together with everyone to really have a vision for this town and have a plan, not just a visionary plan, but a financial plan. You know, do you do a debt exclusion every other year so you get the town back up to where it needs to be? Do you do 2 or 3 big overrides right in a row to get the town up to where it needs to be, so
Right.
then you're good for the future and you're not constantly coming back to the town for more money? And it's not just the schools that are in dire straits right now.
No,
it's
it's
all
the
of the
whole
departments
town, yeah.
and everybody has to come together because we are one town and we share all of the services. So
Right.
I'm not, you know, I just,
I mean, I hear what you're saying, that you agree, but I'm just looking to see if somehow we can figure out a way to do that. And maybe we're not the ones to figure that out, I don't know. But I think there needs to be some connect with all of these separate groups.
well, there's an economic development committee that's been going on in town for how many years? 3?
Couple anyway.
At least 2. So, and I don't know how many people are working on that. You know, there's
We have a
other-
lot of committees.
There are a lot of committees, and we can't fill them. We have committees in town, we can't get people to volunteer to do them.